I've been lucky enough to work with the same people for 13 years. They are not only co-workers but also family. Each of them was close to Frank and was with me. They believed in me and gave me a chance, and I always tried to be grateful for that. But when things didn't go as planned, I felt like I had failed. He took everything from me. I was the one who built American Pickers. Mike Wolfe's angry screams broke the heavy silence of the courtroom as the life sentence was read. A famous face on TV screens across America, Mike Wolfe's search for treasure had taken a darker turn than anyone could have imagined. He was found guilty of murdering his ex-partner Frank Fritz, and as the prison door closed behind him, he said a chilling goodbye. The shocking news from America left millions of people in shock, and many thought Wolfe's arrest was related to a business dispute or a fight in the antiques community. The shocking truth slowly came out. Wolfe was allegedly responsible for Frank Fritz's death. Soon after Fritz's death, Wolfe posted a memorial message on Instagram saying, "I am heartbroken to hear of Frank's passing. I have known Frank for more than half my life, and what you saw on TV is what we had in real life. He was a special person. Rest in peace, my friend." These heartfelt tributes seem strange when compared to the shocking truth. Wolfe was the main suspect in Fritz's death. At first, it was thought that Fritz's death was caused by complications from a stroke. His medical records also showed that he had cerebrovascular disease and aortic stenosis, both of which can affect blood flow. However, an unexpected find in Fritz's home revealed Wolfe's faint fingerprints on an empty pill bottle. After comparing the DNA, investigators decided that the death was not a natural death but a planned murder. A later medical report revealed that Fritz's body had a lot of the strong opioid painkiller fentanyl, much more than the safe level. This raised a lot of questions, because fentanyl wasn't on his prescription. Given Fritz's medical history and strict treatment plan, the chances that he was self-medicating were very low. Police quickly narrowed down the people who had been close to Fritz in his last hours. As the investigation went deeper, a member of the American Picker crew gave them important information that led them to the place where Fritz's body was found. When the body was found, suspicious text messages from Wolfe to Fritz and fingerprints on the pill bottle were used as proof that this was not an accident, but a murder planned out of jealousy and ambition. Fans who thought that the fight between Wolfe and Fritz was just a way to get more viewers now had to face the harsh truth. American Pickers was no longer a story about valuable antiques. It was a tragedy, tinged with betrayal and crime. Mike Wolfe often visited Frank, Fritz's home, making it easy to get in without raising suspicion. The presence of fentanyl in Fritz's system coincided suspiciously with evidence presented at trial, such as Wolfe's internet search history. Prosecutors extracted data showing that Wolfe had searched for information on hard-to-detect poisons and ways to fake a stroke-like death. This coincidence made it even more likely that the whole thing was planned. The level of fentanyl in Fritz's system was far given his medical history and strict treatment plan. Wolfe's access and evidence that he had searched for information about poisons painted a clear picture of this not being an accident, but a planned murder. The autopsy report's key findings led the Iowa State Police to reinvestigate the case as a murder, with Mike Wolfe as the main suspect. The investigation was done undercover, focusing on people who had contact with Frank Fritz in his last days. Detectives were shocked by what they found. Security footage from Fritz's quiet neighborhood accidentally caught a crucial clue. Wolfe's car had shown up at Fritz's house late at night, 3 hours before the 911 call. The fact that the neighborhood was dark and everyone was asleep at the time raised suspicions, especially since Wolfe and Fritz had a tense relationship at the time. It was Wolfe who made the 911 call, and he sounded nervous during the call. At first, the call seemed to come from a genuine concern, as he said he had visited Fritz and found him lying motionless. But as investigators looked more closely, it took on a different meaning. Was this a planned move to create the perfect alibi and control the story from the start? When paramedics and police arrived at the scene, Wolfe looked very upset and was even said to be crying. This was different from his strange behavior right after Fritz was pronounced dead. It didn't stop. There, Mike Wolfe seems to have used information about Frank Fritz's health to set up the perfect crime scene to hide his brutality. As Fritz's longtime friend, Wolfe knew all about his medical history, which included a previous stroke and possible heart problems. This made the use of fentanyl, a powerful opioid, a smart move, since its effects could easily be mistaken for or make stroke symptoms worse. Wolfe carefully planned everything, from Fritz's position when he was found to the smallest details to support the idea that Fritz died naturally due to health problems. What has raised more suspicions, though, is Wolfe's response to Fritz's death. Instead of mourning or remembering his longtime friend, he almost immediately tried to take control of Fritz's important assets. Within 48 hours, Wolfe had contacted a lawyer to talk about buying the rights to use Fritz's name and likeness in future commercial projects. He also went to secret storage locations where Fritz kept rare antiques that had never been seen before. As seen on TV, things got more complicated when Fritz's will came out. According to William Fritz Frank, Fritz's biological father, who sued to make sure the will was real, the whole estate, worth almost $6 million, was left to Mike Wolfe. This news made friends and fans of Fritz very angry. Since Fritz was the only living relative, William Fritz had every reason to be suspicious that his son would leave all of his money to a friend. Especially during a time of when the lawsuit was filed, Wolfe's health was getting worse. So he called his own lawyer to defend the terms of the will. However, this didn't clear things up. Was he really trying to honor Fritz's last wishes, or was he just trying to hold on to the huge fortune he was about to inherit? The case depends on one important question. Was Frank Fritz of sound mind enough to understand and sign his will? If the will had stood, Mike Wolfe would have been the rightful owner of a multi-million-dollar fortune. During the trial, prosecutors brought up questions of greed and manipulation in the estate. On the other hand, William Fritz is fighting to protect his son's legacy. He thinks that Frank would never have meant to leave all of his assets to Wolfe, especially since the two had a tense relationship in Fritz's later years. Wolfe's quick and calculated actions only support the idea that he no longer sees Fritz as a worthy partner, but as a hindrance that needs to be removed. Wolfe's personal diaries also reveal many suspicious details. His entries in Wolfe's diary showing anger and a desire to kill Fritz so he could have full attention and control of the show added to the suspicion. Wolfe showed up at Fritz's house out of the blue late at night, followed by a 911 call and a dramatic scene of grief. However, problems with the autopsy report, Wolfe's personal devices' search history, and his malicious diary entries slowly revealed the truth behind his cover. Soon after Fritz's death, detectives did a full search of Wolfe's home and office and found a secret safe full of unlabeled prescription bottles. The tests showed that the substances in the safe were identical to the poison found in Fritz's body. But what shocked people even more were the entries in Wolfe's personal diary, which showed a dark side that was completely different from the friendly persona he put on for the public. The diaries record not only small fights, but also they build up a rising dislike for Fritz. Until they reach just a few weeks before Fritz's death, Wolfe wrote in his diary, "Without me, this program would not exist. He has become a burden. Now there is only one way for me to protect what I have built." These words are not just the frustration of a coworker, they are proof of Wolfe's coldly calculated intention. They show that Wolfe no longer sees Fritz as a person, but only as an obstacle to be overcome. When Wolfe is caught, the diary entries become colder and scarier than ever, showing that Wolfe didn't just do what he did without planning to. Mike Wolfe's trial lasted 6 tense weeks and caught the attention of people all over the United States. The prosecution built a strong case with a series of irrefutable pieces of evidence that slowly revealed the truth about Frank Fritz's death. The medical examiner's report found that Fritz had a fatal dose of fentanyl in his system, medications that were not prescribed to him, which went against the initial cause of death, which was complications from a stroke. Wolfe's internet search history showed that he had researched hard-to-detect poisons and how to fake a death that looked like a stroke. During the investigation, authorities found a secret safe in Wolfe's home and office that contained unlabeled vials of medication. It shocked everyone when it was confirmed that the substance found in the safe was the same toxin that killed Fritz. What shocked everyone the most, though, were Wolfe's angry journal entries in which he not only vented his anger at Fritz, but also said he wanted to get rid of him completely. Security footage shown in court showed Wolfe's car arriving at Fritz's house late at night, just hours before the emergency call was made. This immediately called Wolfe's testimony into question, as did his actions after Fritz's death, including his planned attempts to quickly seize assets and intellectual property. Wolfe planned and carried out his actions, as shown by his disturbing online searches, which included questions like, "Can drug interactions that cause strokes be detected after death?" and "How can a death look like complications from a stroke?" The evidence suggests that Wolfe not only used Fritz's health condition as a perfect cover story, but also made it look like his death was a natural one. Several former members of the American Pickers, a production assistant, said she saw Wolfe and Fritz argue violently over who would run the show, with Wolfe always stressing his desire to retain full creative control. The assistant also remembered Wolfe telling Fritz angrily that he didn't deserve equal pay anymore because his health had gotten worse. Danielle Colby's testimony, in which she reluctantly took the prosecution's side, was the most shocking. With her voice shaking, she described confronting Wolfe. Mike Wolfe became more and more obsessed with being the only face of American Pickers, Colby said. When she asked Wolfe about Fritz's compensation, Wolfe became irritable and aggressive, even telling her not to get involved in things that didn't concern her. Colby also said that she found disturbing notes about Fritz's medication schedule in Wolfe's office. When she confronted him, he just said that he was worried about Fritz's health for the defense Wolfe's legal team. They tried to paint a picture of a loyal friend who had wanted to make peace with Fritz before the tragedy. They used network executive statements that they hoped Fritz would get better, but this argument was quickly shot down when Fritz's personal doctor said that he was optimistic about his recovery and even had plans to open his own antique shop. More and more evidence came in from medical exams, suspicious internet searches, personal diaries, and witness statements. A clear picture of Wolfe's guilt finally came out, ending a shocking case that had been closely watched by the court. Frank Fritz's doctor's testimony was a devastating blow to Mike Wolfe's defense. The doctor insisted that he had never prescribed the lethal dose of the drug that was found in Fritz's body. This information shattered any last hope Wolfe had of clearing his name. When he was directly asked if he had poisoned Fritz's drink, Wolfe lost all the composure he had shown during the trial. He lost control of his anger and yelled at the prosecutor, "You don't understand what it's like to build something from nothing and have to watch someone else profit by smiling for the cameras. Everyone thinks he's as important to the success of this show as I am." The defense team had to quickly ask for a break, but the impact was too great. The jury later said that the outburst was a turning point in their deliberations because it showed how angry and jealous Wolfe was. Wolfe had been wanted for years because of his financial motives. Forensic accountants testified that just months before Fritz's death, Wolfe had quietly changed the structure of his business to get control of Fritz's intellectual property if he became incapacitated or died. Wolfe also bought a $5 million insurance policy with his company, named as the beneficiary if Fritz died. Prosecutors also said Wolfe had set up multiple shell companies into which he had secretly transferred more than $5 million. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours before returning its final verdict of guilty. When the judge announced the sentence of life in prison without the chance of parole, the courtroom went silent. Mike Wolfe, who had been calm throughout the trial, suddenly stood up and yelled, "You don't understand. He wants to destroy everything. He wants to destroy my legacy." He charged toward the defense table, throwing papers and glasses everywhere. The courthouse police arrived right away. When police tried to stop Wolfe, he charged at the Fritz family, flailing his arms in a rage before he was restrained. Screams and chaos broke out as Wolfe continued to fight, grabbing an old walking stick that was evidence in the case and swinging it at one of the officers, hitting them in the shoulder. "I made American Pickers, it's my life's work," he screamed as 3 officers pinned him to the ground. Wolfe's eyes caught Danielle Colby, a longtime co-anchor on the show, and she said, "Tell them the truth. Tell them who Frank really is," he hissed. "Tell them the truth. Tell them who Frank really is." But Colby just turned away, tears streaming down his face. Documents presented in court revealed how Wolfe isolated the crew members from Fritz, creating a deep rift that could not be mended. Despite being restrained, he continued to scream vitriol, revealing even more shocking details about his ambitions. "I'm going to start my own show," he told me. I was out of date, that the network wanted him back before Wolfe was led away. The judge said sternly, "You see, you think of yourself as a protector of history and culture, but deep down you are just a man of hate and a need to be in charge. Today's justice is not just for Frank Fritz, but for everyone who believed in you." As the cold prison doors slammed shut, Wolfe's last words still echoed through the halls. Were they the last words of a man facing a fair punishment, or were they the final act of a master manipulator? That question will probably never be answered. The relationship between Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz was the highlight of American Pickers, the hit reality TV show that drew millions of viewers from around the world. Together, they searched for rare items in old antique shops and remote neighborhoods across the United States. Their on-screen relationship seemed strong, based on good cooperation, a shared love of antiques, and friendly banter. The show was so interesting because of the contrast in their styles and levels of expertise. Viewers loved how they interacted naturally, even with small things. There were a lot of disagreements on American Pickers, but behind the funny scenes and dramatic bargaining, the relationship between Wolfe and Fritz was slowly falling apart. The problem started to show up when Fritz wasn't on the show after season 21 because of serious health problems, like heart and back problems, that made it impossible for him to keep up with the show. Also, their different work ethics made things worse, and Wolfe slowly took over. Zur is said to have purposely put Fritz down by complaining about him to the channel's executives, making Fritz feel left out and unfairly treated. Mike Wolfe's case sent shockwaves through the reality TV community, putting American Pickers in a tough spot. The History Channel quickly took down episodes featuring Wolfe and released a statement expressing shock at the unexpected developments and condolences to Fritz's family. Many major sponsors also pulled their support from the show, leaving the future of American Pickers uncertain. Pickers uncertain, the Fritz family has sued to regain control of their collection of antiques and intellectual property related to the show. They have promised to protect the legacy Fritz helped create while also taking legal action against the History Channel for letting Wolfe behave in a way that became more and more out of control. Some psychologists have even suggested that Mike Wolfe may have a narcissistic personality disorder, a condition that can get worse after years of being in the public eye. While this doesn't excuse the defendant's actions, it does help us understand the difference between a charming public image and a truly calculating nature. People with narcissistic tendencies may seem calm and charming in public, but they may be hiding deep anger and a strong need to manipulate. Fritz's departure from the show may have caused deep psychological damage that had built up over many years. What's most troubling is the way that this has been handled. As the weeks after Fritz's death went on, Mike Wolfe used his fame to promote memorial merchandise on social media. This caused prosecutor Sarah Donovan to say in her closing argument that this was not only a criminal case, but also a deliberate deception of millions of viewers. Investigators found that more than $1 million had been raised in Fritz's memory, but most of it had gone into accounts controlled by Wolfe by the time the verdict was announced. Robert Jenkins, a longtime fan, said, "We welcomed him into our homes every week, believing in his sincerity, only to find out it was all a cover." Colleagues who had worked with Wolfe also distanced themselves, saying shocking things and asking for respect for Fritz's memory. The American Picker cast was deeply divided. Some still believed Wolfe was innocent, while others were sure of the evidence against him. Danielle Colby, a key figure on the show, said, "We welcomed him into our homes every week, believing in his sincerity, only to find out it was all a cover." She supported the prosecution and said she would be taking a break from her career after the tragic events. She said she hoped that despite everything, the spirit of preserving antiques and history that American pickers once represented could live on. Wolfe was given a life sentence, but the legacies of both men will live on forever, albeit in different ways. Frank Fritz will always be remembered as a dedicated collector with a genuine passion for antiques who inspired millions to discover the beauty of old things. His bright smile and Mike Wolfe's legacy, on the other hand, has been permanently tarnished. Once a visionary in the field of antiques, his accomplishments are now overshadowed by betrayal, greed, and unforgivable crime. Mike Wolfe was sentenced to life in prison, which was a fitting punishment for his crimes, but there's no denying that the world of American pickers and the American reality TV industry has been forever changed. The show was once a symbol of honoring the past and preserving America's unique cultural heritage. However, betrayal, violence, and shocking events in the courtroom have cast a shadow over that image. Behind the charming exterior and what seems to be a genuine love for antiques, a terrifying darkness has been revealed. Are there any secrets left undiscovered in this shocking case? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories and in-depth analysis as it rose